So here's the bit that got me into all of this. Ben Bockelay wasn't hired to make a cartoon. He was hired to help other people make theirs, sitting in Cartoon Network's European studio, polishing up everyone else's pitches. Then somebody decided the staff should pitch as well, and he went digging through a folder of characters he'd drawn for adverts that never got made. A cast of rejects, basically. His original idea was to stick them all in a remedial school, and the producers told him it was too sad. Too sad, that was the note. So he made it cheerful, made it a family, and 11 years later, that same show invented a dimension where forgotten characters go to be quietly deleted. I don't know. That sits with me a bit. Anyway, 100 theories tonight. Some are properly canon, some are people arguing on forums in 2013, and a few are so daft I've kept them in, purely because I enjoy them. Get comfortable. Fall asleep whenever you like. It genuinely doesn't matter. And if you're enjoying these, a subscribe helps me keep making them. Right, let's start with the void, because everything else leans on it. Theory 1. The void is a landfill for narrative mistakes. This is the load-bearing wall of the whole video. So let me lay it out properly once, and then I'll not bang on about it again. The void is a parallel dimension attached to Elmore, and its entire job is to hold things the universe has decided are errors. Not evil things, not dangerous things, just things that don't work, prototype designs, characters with no purpose, trends that stopped being funny, inventions nobody needed. It takes them out and it holds them in a sort of static-filled nowhere, and everything drifts about glitching in and out of existence. The part I find properly clever is the cover-up. When something gets voided, the world doesn't just delete it. It erases every trace, memories, objects, anything that would point at the missing thing. And to hide the gap, reality folds over on itself. Which means if you can find one of those folds and force it open, you get a portal straight into the dump. 2 rules attached to that. The portal shrinks and eventually closes, so nothing can climb back out. And if you do climb out badly, in a rush, in a bad position, you come out disfigured. Anyone who escapes has their memory of the place wiped clean. That's the machinery. Hold on to it, because about 40 of these theories are built on top of it. Theory 2. Molly Collins was deleted for being boring. Molly was a season 1 background kid, perfectly pleasant, not memorable, and one day she's simply gone, and nobody in Elmore notices because that's how it works. The theory that grew out of this is that the void doesn't have a moral standard at all. It has an interest standard. Molly wasn't a mistake in the sense of being broken, she was a mistake in the sense of being dull. And in a town where a T-Rex and a talking banana go to the same school, dull is a design flaw, which is a bleak little rule to live under when you think about it. Be entertaining or be removed. Half the internet's been complaining about that for years, without realising there's a cartoon that made it literal. Theory 3. Mr. Small's tinfoil hat is the only working memory in town. When Gumball and Darwin go looking for Molly, it's Mr. Small who half remembers that things vanish. And he only half remembers because of the tinfoil hat, which he presumably started wearing for entirely different reasons. Buried in that is Janice, his lost love. He can't quite hold on to her. He knows there was someone. The show plays it for laughs, and then moves on. And honestly, I think that's the most upsetting thing in the series, more than any of the big dramatic episodes. A man who knows there's a hole in his life, and can't get near enough to see what fell out of it. The theory fans built from that is a good one. The tinfoil hat actually works. Not against government satellites. Against reality's editing process. Whatever Mr. Small is doing, it's giving him a partial exemption from the memory wipe, and he's the only person in Elmore operating with the receipts. Theory 4. The void has intent. On paper, it's a place. Places don't want things, but watch what it actually does. It makes people forget they've seen in it, seconds after they've seen it hidden. It tries to seal the only exit while there are people inside. It took its time with Rob rather than doing it cleanly. That's not a bin. A bin doesn't close the lid on you. So the theory is that the void isn't a location at all. It's something with preferences. And what it wants is a tidy, consistent Elmore with no loose ends. It's a caretaker. A very unpleasant one, but a caretaker, quietly reshaping the town into a version it finds acceptable. I quite like this reading because it means the show's antagonist is essentially editorial judgment. Theory 5. If nothing happens in Elmore, the void makes something happen. This one comes out of The Vegetals, and it's my favourite of the mechanical theories. The idea is that the universe needs plot, not wants needs. If a day goes by with no story in it, something is inserted. A disaster, a nuisance, a talking vegetable uprising, anything to keep the machine fed. And that reframes the entire series. All those episodes where the Wattersons cause chaos out of nothing. Not their fault. They're being volunteered. The town's got a quota and they're the ones who keep getting picked to fill it. There's a version of this where Gumball is less a troublemaker and more a lightning rod. And if you rewatch season 2 with that in mind, a suspicious number of episodes start with him minding his own business. Theory 6. The void is cancellation. Fans said this for years, and the revival went and confirmed it, more or less. The thing that erases characters for being irrelevant, that removes them and wipes any memory they existed, that expands when the world stops being interesting. That's a network executive with a spreadsheet. That's it. That's the metaphor. What I appreciate is that they didn't wink at it. They built an entire cosmology around a business decision and let it be genuinely frightening for the characters inside it. Theory 7. Finding out you're fictional ends the world. Here's the rule, as the revival states it, and it's remarkably specific. The void will consume Elmore under 2 conditions. 1, the show gets cancelled. 2, anyone in Elmore works out that they're fictional. That second one is the interesting half. It means the show's characters are living in a house with one door they mustn't open, and the show's whole personality, the meta jokes, the fourth wall stuff, the constant winking, has been rattling that door handle for over a decade, so every clever self-aware gag in the back catalogue is retroactively a near miss. Fun. Theory 8. Elmore has an unusually high error rate. Things come to life there constantly. Furniture, food, weather, abstract concepts. Mr. Small once theorised the town is just eccentric and error-prone by nature. The theory extends that into something structural. Elmore isn't a normal place with weird stuff in it. It's a place where the rules are thinner, reality is a bit undercooked. And the void exists specifically because Elmore generates so many mistakes that it needed a dedicated waste service, which makes the void less a villain and more a symptom. The town broke first, Theory 9, the simulation theory and why fans quietly dropped it. For a while there was a serious push for Elmore being a computer simulation. Cartoon Conspiracy covered it, people wrote it up properly, and then the fandom worked out the problem, which is that it kept collapsing into a different theory, that Gumball is a self-aware cartoon, which isn't a theory, that's just what the show is. The simulation angle didn't add anything the text wasn't already saying out loud. There was a nice mutation of it though from a fan blog. The TV show is the simulation, not a metaphor for one. Literally, the thing being run. Made with computers, populated with characters, kept around because someone finds them interesting. It's the same idea, wearing a better hat. Theory 10. Banana Barbara paints the future. Banana Joe's mum paints, and her paintings turn out to be prophecy. That's canon, that's an episode. The kids find a painting of something that hasn't happened yet, and spend the whole runtime trying to dodge it. The theory bolted onto that is about which paintings we never got a good look at. There's a school of thought that says the finale, the void opening up under Elmore Junior High, was hanging on a wall in that house years earlier, and that Barbara had been quietly documenting the end of the world in between doing still lifes. She's a banana with a paintbrush, and she's the only person in town who knew what was coming. No notes, Theory 11. There is no future, Barbara says it, flat, no context, in among the comedy, and fans have been chewing on it ever since. The straightforward reading is that she can see the void coming, and there's simply nothing painted past a certain point. Not darkness, not disaster, blank canvas, which, if her gift is genuinely predictive, is a much colder statement than anything a villain says in the whole series. Theory 12. Gumball's 13th birthday is the expiry date. This one's lovely, and I've never fully shaken it. The argument, Elmore exists because it has a kid hero. The moment Gumball becomes a teenager, that role's vacant, and a world with no reason to exist gets recycled. So the void closing in isn't random timing. It's a countdown attached to a boy's birthday. Theory 13. Which brings us to why nobody in Elmore has a birthday. Fans clocked it years ago. The kids never age, never celebrate. 7 years of episodes and not one candle. Standard cartoon logic, everyone assumed. Then the revival picked it up and made it evidence. Gumball and Darwin start listing the things that don't add up about their own lives. And no birthdays in 7 years is right there on the list, alongside their bodies changing shape between seasons and their voices dropping without warning. The fandom's throwaway observation became a plot point. That's a rare thing to watch happen, and I'd argue it's the single best example of a show actually listening to the people picking it apart. A couple of things I found while putting this together that didn't fit neatly into a numbered theory, but are too good to leave out. The first is about the fold. Everyone focuses on the portal because the portal is the dramatic bit, but the fold is the clever bit. Reality doesn't patch the hole where the deleted thing used to be. It creases over it, like folding a sheet of paper, so two edges meet and the middle disappears. Which means the missing thing is still technically there. It's just been tucked out of the picture. And that has a consequence nobody in the show says out loud. If the world folds rather than erases, then Elmore is getting physically smaller every time something goes. Not visibly, not in a way anyone could measure, but the town has been quietly losing surface area for years. Every fold takes a bit off. There's a version of that town from season 1 that was slightly bigger than the one we're looking at now. The second thing is about who gets to be a mistake, because the criteria are all over the place. Molly went for being unremarkable. Rob went for having no purpose. But the void also holds prototype designs, obsolete inventions, and cultural fads that stopped being funny. Things that were never characters at all. So it isn't running a single test, it's running several. And the only common thread is that whatever's in there had stopped justifying the space it was taking up. Which is, if I'm honest, the thing about this show that unsettles me more than any of the actual horror episodes. It's not a monster. There's no malice in it. It's a filing decision applied to people. And the third thing, which I keep coming back to, is the memory wipe. Because it isn't just that Elmore forgets. Elmore is made to forget, actively, as part of the process. That's an enormous amount of effort to go to. If you're a system that can simply delete a person, why also go through everyone's heads and take out the parts where they knew that person? The answer the show implies is that grief is the loose end. A missing person with people who remember them is still a story. You'd get a search, an investigation, a bloke in a tinfoil hat asking questions, and the whole point is to end the story cleanly. Mr. Small is the proof that the process isn't perfect. He's the one bit of grief that survived the edit, wandering around the school half remembering someone called Janice, and the system has apparently decided that's an acceptable margin of error. Which brings us pretty naturally to the bloke who actually got thrown in there. There's a shot I think about more than any other in this series, and it isn't from a big episode. Gumball and Darwin are inside the void, on a rescue mission, being heroic. And off to the side, a boy is calling out to them, waving, shouting, someone they went to school with, and they walk straight past him because he isn't memorable enough to register. even in the place where unmemorable people are sent. That's Rob. Everything else about him grows out of that one moment. Theory 14. Rob is a deconstruction of the entire villain archetype. The theory, which came out of the villain wiki forums and has been kicking about for years, goes like this. In Elmore, you need a role. Protagonist, love interest, comic relief, bully, pick one. If you haven't got one, you're an error, and errors get collected. Rob comes out of the void with no memory, no shape, and no purpose, and he tells Gumball and Darwin outright that he's a nobody. So they help him pick a job, and every decent role is taken. The only vacancy left in the whole town is arch enemy. So he takes it, not out of hatred, out of necessity. He becomes the villain because it was the last position available, and the alternative was ceasing to exist. I find that genuinely one of the smarter character ideas in children's television, and it's sitting in a show where a banana once ate himself in a queue. Theory 15. The Dr. Wrecker phase. Briefly, he tries out a supervillain name, Dr. Wrecker. It doesn't stick, and the theory about why is that the name was him auditioning a personality rather than having one, trying on the costume to see if the man appears afterwards. He goes back to Rob, just Rob, which is either him accepting who he is or him admitting the costume never fit. Theory 16. The hesitation. At one point he has Gumball completely at his mercy, and he stalls, and fans have argued about that pause for years. Reading 1, he can't do it because he doesn't actually want to. Reading 2, which I prefer, he can't do it because if Gumball's gone, so is the role of Gumball's nemesis, and Rob evaporates the moment the thing he's opposed to stops existing. His entire identity is parasitic on the person he's trying to destroy. That's a terrible position to be in, and he knows it. Theory 17. Hard to hate. He says it about Gumball near the end of a long campaign of ruining his life, after Gumball tries to save him. The theory is that this line is where the show admits Rob was never a villain. He was just a lonely kid with a job title. And when he turns time back to undo the damage he's caused, it's not a redemption arc in the usual sense. He's not sorry in a moral way. He's found out that revenge didn't fill the hole either, and he'd rather have the friend. Theory 18. Rob is the original pitch, resurfacing. Right, back to the top of the video for a second, because this is the connection that made me want to do this list at all. The show was pitched as reject characters with no purpose, and got told it was too sad. Years later, the same creator introduces a reject character with no purpose and gives him the best arc in the series. The theory is that the original idea never actually got cut. It got compressed into one character and smuggled back in. Rob is the remedial school. He's the whole abandoned concept, walking around, being exactly as sad as the producers were worried about. Theory 19. Rob has the last word in the entire original series. 2 words, technically. It started, then the floor goes, and he falls. The final line of 240 episodes belongs to the character who spent most of the show being ignored. And the theory is that this was completely deliberate. The boy nobody would look at gets the last thing anybody says. Whether that's a kindness or a cruelty rather depends on your mood. Theory 20. The shopkeeper and the claw. For 6 years he was falling. That was it. That was where we left him. Then the revival explains it. The shady bloke who runs the awesome store reached into the plot hole with a claw, pulled him out, and gave him a job. He'd known the whole time that the world was fiction, and he'd apparently been quietly maintaining the status quo for who knows how long. Theory 21. So how many others has he saved? This is the obvious follow-up, and I'm surprised more people haven't run with it. If the shopkeeper has a claw that reaches into the deletion bin, and a cross-dimensional laptop that edits the script, and he's been operating that shop for years, then Rob isn't the first thing he's fished out. The theory, half the odd, Unexplained items in that shop are recovered mistakes. Things pulled back from the void and shelved. He's not a shopkeeper. He's an archivist running a rescue operation out of a van. And the fact that he sold Rob the universal remote that started all the trouble suggests he's also got a sense of humour about it. Theory 22. The signal was the universe having a breakdown about Rob. Everything glitches in that episode. No stated cause. The theory, from the tropes crowd, is that the glitching is the system erroring out. Rob got voided like Molly did, but unlike Molly he escaped and got his memories back, and then upgraded himself into a major character. That's not supposed to be possible, so the universe tries to re-void him, fails because he's got a purpose now, and purpose is the one thing it can't delete, and the whole town flickers while it argues with itself. Theory 23. He's the only one who remembers. Canonically, escaping the void wipes you. Rob remembered anyway, at the end of The Nobody, and he remains the only character to have managed it. The theory people have built on that is about why. The favoured answer is spite, not a mechanism, not a loophole. He simply wanted it back badly enough that the erasure didn't take. Which is nonsense, obviously, but it's the kind of nonsense this show is built out of. Theory 24. He's the only one trying to save anybody. Here's the uncomfortable one. In the finale, Rob turns everyone human. It looks like an attack. Everyone treats it like an attack. He was trying to get them out. He'd worked out what was coming, and he thought turning them into something else, something that could exist somewhere other than here, might spare them. He tries to warn people. Nobody listens because he's the villain, and villains don't do that. So the last act of the original series is the town's designated bad guy attempting a rescue and being fought off by the people he's rescuing. That's a proper gut punch, and I'd forgotten it until I went back through this. Theory 25. 4 voices. Rob's been voiced by several different actors across his run, and there's a theory that this is why he glitches, that the flicker in his design and delivery is the character showing his own production seams. It's not a serious argument. Loads of characters changed actors, but the revival made voice changes canonical evidence that the world isn't real. So the daft version of this theory accidentally became half true, and I think Rob would find that funny. I want to sit with this character a bit longer, because I think he's the reason the show ended up being about what it's about. And there are 2 angles I skipped over. The first is the timing of his transformation. Rob doesn't become the villain and then get thrown out. He gets thrown out, comes back broken, and is then offered the job by the person he's going to spend years trying to destroy. Gumball and Darwin invent his nemesis, together, as a favour. They're trying to help. They're being genuinely kind about it, in the way 12-year-olds are kind, which is to say, enthusiastically, and without any thought about consequences. So the entire rivalry is a gift. Gumball handed him a purpose, because he felt bad, and Rob took it because there was nothing else on the table, and the 2 of them then spent seasons fighting over something that started as a nice gesture. I don't think there's another cartoon rivalry constructed that way. Usually, the villain arrives with a grievance. This one arrived with a vacancy. The second angle is about scale, and this is the one that gets me. Rob is the only character in the show who can see the whole thing. He's been outside it. He knows what the void is. He knows what happens to people who stop being interesting, and by the end, he knows the world is going to be eaten. He has, functionally, the complete picture. And it's worth nothing to him. Absolutely nothing. He tries to warn people, and they treat it as a plot. He tries to move them somewhere safer, and they fight him off. He has the correct information and no credibility whatsoever, because the role he accepted years earlier means nobody is ever going to believe a word he says. That's the trap the whole character is built on. He needed a role to survive, and the only role available was the one that disqualifies you from being listened to. He bought his existence at the price of ever being taken seriously again. And here's the fun detail. I'll leave this bit on. In the revival, the resolution to all of it is that a shady man in a van pulls him out with a claw and gives him a job in a shop. Not a redemption, not a heroic moment, employment after everything, the void, the remote, the years of scheming, the falling. The thing that saves Rob is somebody offering him a position, which is exactly what he was after in the first place. He spent the entire series trying to get a job and eventually got one in retail. I genuinely can't decide whether that's the saddest or the happiest ending in the franchise, and I've thought about it more than is reasonable. Now let's talk about the family, because they've got their own problems. Theory 26. Richard was a soldier. Start with a hat. In the tape, Gumball and Darwin film a load of rubbish sketches, and in one of them Darwin's wearing a military cap with a rabbit insignia on it. Next shot, near identical cap, eagle insignia, nobody comments. It's in a drawer in that house for no stated reason. The theory that grew out of that hat is one of the most elaborate in the fandom. It says there's an entire population of pink rabbits somewhere, that they were militaristic in the recent past, and that Richard used to be a high-ranking officer. The cap is his. The supporting evidence is where it gets good. Elmore treats Richard badly in ways that don't quite read as jokes. Automatic doors refuse to open for him. Miss Simeon has it in for him personally, and for his children. In a town where objects are alive and have opinions, a door that won't let a specific man through starts to look less like slapstick and more like prejudice. And then the question the theory's really asking: why is Nicole with him? She's driven, sharp, relentless. She married someone who eats through their savings from a sofa. So the theory says he was someone else once. Something happened, and what's left is a man who's been hollowed out and doesn't know it. I don't believe a word of it. I think about it constantly. Theory 27. The intelligence is still in there. Follow on from the last one. In the laziest, Richard appears to change the channel with his mind, and for a while fans took that as proof of buried genius. Telekinesis, some latent capability, the officer showing through. Then the episode reveals he had the remote wedged somewhere unmentionable and had simply got very good at operating it blind, which honestly is its own kind of expertise. The theory survives in a reduced form. Richard is not stupid, Richard is specialised. He has directed an entire adult lifetime of processing power at one activity and become world-class at it. That's not an absence of intelligence, that's a catastrophic misallocation of it. Theory 28. The summer of '83. Richard beat a bloke called Lawrence in a laziness contest. In the summer of 1983, he and Nicole went to school together. Elsewhere, he says they've been married 20 years. None of that fits comfortably with anything else, and the theory that came out of the arithmetic is that Richard was held back at school repeatedly, which is the sort of explanation that solves the problem while making you feel worse about the character. There's a counter-theory that the timeline simply doesn't work because the show has never once cared about timelines, and we'll come back to that later on, because it turns out that's a load-bearing detail. Theory 29. Where does the money come from? One salary, a rainbow factory, a house, 2 cars over the years, a family of 5, and a man who treats the fridge as a personal enemy. The theory has 3 branches. Branch 1, military benefits, tied straight into the veteran theory, which is the tidiest explanation anyone's produced. Branch 2, they're drowning and the show just doesn't dwell on it, which fits the number of episodes about bills and repossession. Branch 3, and this is the fandom's cynical favourite. Nicole earns considerably more than the show ever lets on, and the reason she never stops working is that she's the entire load-bearing structure of that household, and she knows it. Theory 30. Nicole is the creator's mother. Bocquelet named Nicole, Richard, and Anaïs after his own mum, dad, and sister. That's on the record. which recontextualizes rather a lot. The theory here isn't complicated, it's just uncomfortable in a nice way. The show's most intense character, the one with the rage and the workaholism, and the childhood bully who never let go, is named after the writer's mother. And the running feud between Nicole and Miss Simeon, which the show treats as a gag, is being written by a man who put his own family's names on these people. I'm not going to speculate on what that means for his actual family. I'm just saying it's a very specific choice, and he made it on purpose. Theory 31. The maiden name problem. In one flashback, Nicole's yearbook photo shows a surname starting with G. In The Choices, her maiden name is Senecourt. Fans noticed, fans always notice, and the theories split into the boring answer, which is that it's a continuity error, and the fun answer, which is that Nicole has changed her name at least once before, deliberately, and there's a version of her from before Senecourt that nobody has met. Given that this show made a character legally change his own first name in an episode, the fun answer isn't as mad as it sounds. Theory 32. The workaholic diagnosis that came true. Someone wrote this up as a theory years ago, back when it was still a theory. Nicole isn't just busy, she's structurally dependent on being busy, because providing for 4 people who can't provide for themselves has become her entire operating system. Take the work away, and she doesn't relax, she comes apart. And then the show confirmed it outright in an episode where she's forced to stop, and it goes exactly as badly as predicted. So this one graduated. It's not a theory anymore, it's just character analysis that happened to be early. Theory 33. There are souls in her eyes. Fans have a running argument that Nicole is, in the most literal available sense, some kind of demon. The evidence people cite is that her eyes have shown things in them. She has melted plastic by staring at it, and she has appeared to drain the life out of a person. I don't think this holds up as a theory. What I think is more interesting is that it exists at all. This is a children's cartoon, and a substantial number of adults came away convinced the mum was supernatural. That's a performance and a design working extremely hard. There's a milder version I'll sign up to. Elmore is a place where things come to life and take on properties they shouldn't have. And Nicole's temper is so consistent and so extreme that it started to become a physical property of her. The town made her literal. Theory 34. The Choices is an episode about grief. On the surface, it's a flashback episode. Nicole remembers meeting Richard, having Gumball, moving into a wreck of a house, painting it, measuring a toddler against a doorframe, adopting a fish, and having a daughter. The reading fans landed on is that the episode is not about how she chose right. It's about her spending an entire day mourning a version of her life that she can see perfectly clearly and can't get to. She's grieving a person she didn't become. And then she comes out of it and she starts a food fight with her family. And she means it. That's an oddly grown-up thing to hand to children on a Tuesday afternoon. And it's probably the best episode the show ever made. Theory 35. His name is Zach. Legally, at birth, the blue cat was called Zach. There's an episode about it, and by the end, he's had it formally changed to Gumball, which is the nickname. The theory people built out of that is small, and I like it a lot. This is the single most in-character thing Gumball has ever done. Presented with a perfectly serviceable name that he'd been carrying around unknowingly for 12 years, he went to the bother of legal paperwork to replace it with a joke. His full name, for the record, is Gumball Christopher Watterson. Someone in that family has been making decisions. Theory 36. The Calvin and Hobbes reading. The Wattersons are named after Bill Watterson. That's confirmed, and once you know it, the theory writes itself. A boy with an enormous imagination, a companion who may or may not be an ordinary animal depending on how you look at him, a world that bends to a child's logic, and parents who are constantly one step behind. Calvin had a tiger. Gumball has a goldfish that grew legs. The The theory goes further than homage, though. It argues that the whole show is an answer to a question the comic strip left open. What if the imagination wasn't imagination? What if the world genuinely was like that for everyone, all the time, and the adults had simply given up arguing about it? Which is more or less what Elmore is. Theory 37. Darwin's legs are Lamarckian, not Darwinian. The pet fish grew legs. Various fan explanations exist, and the most repeated is that Gumball massively overfed him, he outgrew the bowl, and he adapted, and the fandom immediately pointed out the problem, which is that an organism acquiring a trait within its own lifetime because it needed one is Lamarck, not Darwin. The character named after the wrong scientist. Nobody's ever going to resolve that, and I hope they never try. Theory 38. Darwin is the conscience because he arrived last. He's the only Watterson who wasn't born into it. He was chosen, and he knows it. And the theory is that this is precisely why he functions as the family's moral centre. Everyone else in that house is operating on instinct and habit. Darwin is the only one who ever had to work out what a family is from the outside and then decide to join. So he takes it more seriously than any of them. He's the one who remembers birthdays that don't happen, the one who's grateful, the one who panics when the unit is threatened. It also explains the streak of quiet menace people keep noticing in him. The person most desperate to keep the family together is going to be the one who does something alarming to protect it. Theory 39. Anais got her brain from Richard's side. The theory says Anais is the only Watterson child who is unambiguously Richard's, and she's a genius, so the genius came from him. It points at Granny Jojo, who is overbearing but plainly not stupid, as supporting evidence. The counter-argument is that Richard has never once demonstrated a capability, and the theory's original telekinesis evidence collapsed the moment the remote came out. Where I've landed, it's a decent argument regardless of Richard himself, because intelligence in that family clearly skips about. Nicole is sharp in a completely different way. Tactical, relentless, and Anais is analytical. Those aren't the same thing. If you had to guess whose brunch produced a 4-year-old who does calculus for fun, Richard's chaotic, unpredictable line is genuinely the better bet. Theory 40. Anais is 4 years old. Attends Elmore Junior High. Nobody comments on it. The fan reading is that Elmore has no functioning bureaucracy, which is why a preschooler can enroll in secondary school, and a 12-year-old can legally change his name. There's no system. There's a building and some adults, and whoever turns up, which is either an indictment of the education system or an accurate portrait of it, depending on how your week's gone. Theory 41. The timeline is broken, and that's the point. Gather up the problems. The summer of '83, a 20-year marriage between two people who went to school together. An age gap between the siblings that shifts. Telephone boxes and CRT televisions in a town with a video streaming site. Fans spent years trying to build a consistent chronology, and it cannot be done. And the theory that eventually won is the elegant one. It isn't broken by accident. Elmore doesn't have a stable date. The evidence points in 4 directions at once because there isn't a real answer underneath. And the revival more or less confirmed the philosophy by having the characters notice their own inconsistencies and treat them as symptoms. The timeline doesn't work because there's nothing under it. That's genuinely the answer. Theory 42. The coma theory. The oldest one in the fandom, and the one everybody's heard, so I'll be quick, but the version people repeat is usually the weaker version. The weak version, it's all a dream, none of it's real, thanks for playing. The strong version, which is the one that's been sitting on the fan theory wiki for years, is built on a specific observation. Nobody outside the Watterson family reacts proportionately to anything. Gumball and Darwin cause genuine catastrophe, property damage, injury, occasionally worse, and the townspeople are mildly annoyed at most. Hot Dog Guy takes it. The Bensons take it. Nobody presses charges, nobody moves away. Meanwhile, the only characters who ever show fear or paranoia are Gumball, Darwin, and Richard. So the theory is that Elmore only exists inside a Watterson head, and everyone else is furniture that can't respond correctly because nobody's written a response for them. I don't buy it, mostly because the show has since given us the void, which explains the same behaviour without needing anyone to be unconscious. But it's a genuinely well-observed theory, and the observation underneath it that this town is weirdly forgiving of these specific people has never actually been explained. A few more bits on this family that I couldn't file under a single theory. The first is about the house itself, which nobody theorises about nearly enough. In the choices, we see them move into it, and it's a wreck. Richard's painting the front of it. They fix it up over years. That's a young couple with no money, buying the worst house they could afford, and slowly making it livable. Which changes how the house reads in every other episode. All those gags about things falling apart, the state of the car, the fridge, that's not generic sitcom shabbiness. We watch them build that. Everything the kids destroy on a weekly basis is something Richard and Nicole put in with their own hands when they were about 22 and hopeful. The second thing is about Anais, and it's the observation that reframed her for me. She's the smartest person in the house by an enormous margin, and she's 4 years old, which means the family's most competent member has no authority whatsoever. She can see exactly what's going wrong, she can usually see how to fix it, and she gets ignored because she's a toddler holding a rabbit doll. That's her entire experience of family life, being correct and being overruled, and the show plays it for laughs almost every time. But if you watch her reaction shots, the ones where she just goes quiet and lets the disaster happen because arguing is pointless, it's a very specific kind of frustration that a lot of youngest siblings will recognise, sort of like being the one person in a group project who's read the brief. The third thing is the Darwin problem, and I've held it back until now because it needs the rest of the family in place first. Darwin was the pet, that's the origin. He lived in a bowl in that house, watching the family from a shelf for an unspecified period before he grew legs. So he was there for things. He saw them. He has memories of that household from before he was a member of it, from a position where nobody was performing for him, and the show has never once gone anywhere near what that must have been like. There's a whole unwritten era of Darwin sitting in water, observing this family at close range, unable to speak. There's a theory floating about that this is why he's so accommodating, that he learnt very early exactly what the household needed from him, and simply became it. I find that a bit dark, but I also can't argue with the mechanics of it. And the last thing, which ties back to the money question. In the choices, Gumball was conceived before the marriage. That's stated. 2 very young people, a baby that wasn't in the plan, a derelict house, and a factory job. Everything about that family's precarity makes sense once you've got that. They never had a running start. Nicole has been carrying an unplanned life since before she was ready, and the reason she can't stop working isn't neurosis, it's arithmetic. She's been in catch-up mode for 2 decades, and nobody's ever offered her a break. Right, let's go up the road to the school, because that place has its own problems. Elmore Junior High is a building that has hosted a dinosaur, a ghost, a robot, a balloon, and a piece of fruit in the same classroom, and the staff situation is arguably stranger than the pupils. Theory 43. Miss Simeon has been teaching since prehistory. She's a baboon, and the running joke is that she's ancient. The theory takes the joke literally. She's not old for a teacher, she's old for a species. She's been in that job since before there were jobs, which produces a genuinely funny image. Every generation in Elmore has passed through the same woman's classroom. Nicole sat in front of her. Nicole's parents probably did. The town has one continuous educational experience, and it's her. Theory 44. She never stopped being the bully. Here's the part that stops being funny. Miss Simeon called Nicole a loser throughout her childhood. Nicole hates that word to this day. And Miss Simeon now teaches Nicole's children. The theory is that this isn't a coincidence of small-town life, it's a choice. She stayed. She's still there, still in the same building, still using the same word, and she gets to watch the woman she tormented drop her kids off every morning. The show plays their feud as comedy between two adults. It reads completely differently once you know one of them started it when the other was 11. Theory 45. Principal Brown has a second face. There's a frame in the grades where something wrong appears on Brown's face, a second one, briefly, and then it's gone. Fans have been circling it ever since. The theories run from animation error to the fun one. Brown isn't what he appears to be, and the show has shown us once at speed, and never again. Fair warning, this is one I'd treat lightly. It's a single frame, and single frames are exactly the thing people overread. But it's also a show that hid a void in the background for 3 seasons, so I'm not dismissing it either. Theory 46. He's admitted he's a fraud. Twice. This bit's not a theory, it's just true, and nobody follows up on it. Nigel Brown has stated outright, in more than one episode, that he's a fraud. The plot moves on. The school continues. The theory built on it is that Brown has no qualifications whatsoever, walked into the building at some point in the past, and nobody checked, which fits neatly with the earlier idea that Elmore has no functioning administration. He's a man who got the job by standing in the office and waiting. Theory 47. Why did he help Rob? In the finale, before everything goes sideways, Brown makes an effort to assist Rob. It's small, and it's quick, and it doesn't fit. The theory says Brown knew. Not everything, but something. Enough to recognise that the person everyone was treating as a threat was actually trying to help. Stack that on the fraud admissions and the frame in the grades, and you get a version of Brown who's been quietly aware of the shape of things for years and has never once been asked about it. Theory 48. Bobber is an experiment, and the school is the lab. Bobber has a memory erase button. That's the detail everything hangs on. The theory? He was built by researchers placed in Elmore Junior High and is reporting on how an absurdly diverse group of children managed to coexist without killing each other. When the study's done, they wipe him and start again somewhere else. It's tidy, it explains the button, it explains why he's constantly trying and failing to imitate social behaviour, and it gives the school an unsettling second purpose. Whether it's true or not, the fact that there's a child in that class with a factory reset switch has never been adequately addressed. Theory 49. He's also a Robot Jones parody. 2 robot parents, an interest in organic life, a struggle to fit in, super strength. If you watched Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, the resemblance isn't subtle. Not much of a theory, more of a spot. But this show is built out of borrowed shapes, so it's worth flagging. Theory 50. Can you be born dead? Carrie is a ghost. Carrie is also a schoolchild who appears to have always been one. The theory that tries to square that is grim and quite creative. She was stillborn, and her parents brought her back, which makes them necromancers, or witches, or something Elmore hasn't got a word for. The counter-argument fans immediately raised is that this still requires her to have been mortal at some point, which the show has never confirmed. So the honest position is that nobody knows what Carrie is, including possibly Carrie. Theory 51. Hunger is the last sense a ghost keeps. Carrie's defining trait, besides being dead, is that she is ravenous. She possesses bodies partly to eat with them. There's a moralizing version of this theory that lists her behaviour off against various sins, and I think that's overcooked. The version I find genuinely affecting is simpler. She can't touch anything. She can't taste anything. She's a teenager surrounded by people doing ordinary physical things she's permanently locked out of, and the one appetite that survived is the one she can never satisfy. That's why she's grumpy. I'd be grumpy. Theory 52. What's under the shell? Before the show answered it, this was the biggest question in the fandom, and the guesses were extraordinary. The best one. Penny is a jackalope. Antlers, paw-like hands and feet, all consistent with the mythological rabbit with antlers. The counter came back immediately. She'd have hooves if she were a deer, followed by the counter, which is that it's a pun. She's a dough inside a nut. She's a donut. The whole design is a joke, and the joke requires the deer. Then the shell happened, and the actual answer was that she's a shape-shifting creature whose form follows her emotions, stabilized by a kiss, which splits the difference so precisely that both camps got to claim they were right. Theory 53. So why is everyone else stuck? This is the follow-up nobody talks about enough. If Penny's true state is fluid, and the shell was the thing holding her in one shape, what are everyone else's shells? The theory proposes that fixed form in Elmore is a choice, or a restriction, rather than a fact. Penny's family kept theirs on. Some fans have run this out to the point of arguing they're shapeshifters hiding in plain sight, and that the antlers and peanut look was a costume the whole family agreed on. Which raises the properly odd question: if your body is optional, why would a family collectively pick peanuts? Theory 54. Tobias came from somewhere else. Tobias doesn't look like anything else in the show, which has produced a long-running and completely unserious debate about which cartoon he's escaped from. Lumpy space is the popular answer. The problem solvers is the other. There's no evidence for any of it. What there is underneath is a real observation. The cast were drawn for different projects, by the same man, at different times, for different clients. Tobias looks like he's from another show because in a sense he is, which we'll get to properly later. Theory 55. Masami and the family business. Masami is a cloud. Her father owns the Rainbow Factory. Nicole works at the Rainbow Factory. The theory is that this makes the entire power dynamic of Elmore's playground a labour relations issue. Masami's status among the children isn't just personality, it's inherited economic position. And the reason it's never framed that way is that nobody in a middle school thinks about it in those terms. But the show absolutely knows. The Yoshidas own the thing Nicole gives her life to. There's a much sillier corollary that fans enjoy about the raw material of a rainbow factory and what a cloud produces, and I'll leave that one where I found it. Theory 56. Banana Joe's granddad knew I Am Weasel. Right, this is exactly the kind of thing I put these videos together for. In an episode of I Am Weasel, there's a clever banana who has a wife and children. The theory says one of those children grew up to be Banana Joe's parent, which makes Banana Joe the grandson of a talking banana who was mates with a weasel in a completely different Cartoon Network show from the 90s. There's an alternative branch that traces the family to the banana aliens in Rocco's modern life instead. I have no way of choosing between them and I'm not going to try. Theory 57. Alan and mortality. Alan is a balloon. Alan is relentlessly, almost aggressively nice. The theory: he's nice because he is one thumbtack away from ceasing to exist permanently at any moment, and he knows it. Everyone else in that school has a body that heals. Alan has a surface. That awareness has produced either the most well-adjusted child in Elmore or the most quietly terrified one, and the show has never let on which. Theory 58. The Extras is a Void prequel. There's an episode where the background characters revolt. Not violently, they just start singing about wanting to be noticed, and the show hands them the runtime. The theory, which arrived after the Void was established, is that this episode is what the deletion process looks like from the other side. Every character in that song is one dull week away from being collected, and they know it, and the whole number is an audition for continued existence. The green bear who stands up and shouts "finally" is a character who's been waiting for a line since season 1. Rewatching that episode after you know where Rob ended up is a different experience entirely. 2 more things about Elmore Junior High before we go outside. The first is the staffing situation. which is properly bleak once you line it up. You've got a principal who has publicly stated he's a fraud. You've got a teacher who is, by the show's own running joke, geologically old and openly hostile to her pupils. You've got a counsellor whose main qualification appears to be a van and some herbal tea, and they're collectively responsible for a building containing a live dinosaur. Nobody inspects this place. Nobody audits it. In 6 seasons, I don't think an external authority ever walks through the door with a clipboard and takes a proper look, which supports something I mentioned earlier about Elmore having no functioning institutions, and I think the school is the strongest evidence for it. It's not that the systems are corrupt, it's that there don't appear to be any. The building runs because the people inside it turn up. The second thing is about the background pupils, and this is the bit I find genuinely affecting after everything we've covered. Watch a classroom shot. Really look at the back rows. There are dozens of characters in that room who have never had a line, never had a plot, never been named on screen. Some of them are extremely striking designs, things somebody clearly spent real time on, and they exist to fill chairs. And we now know what happens to characters who fill chairs for too long. So every wide shot of that classroom is, under the show's own rules, a room full of people at varying degrees of risk. The ones who got an episode are safe. The ones who got a running gag are probably fine. The ones sitting quietly at the back are on borrowed time. And the show made an entire episode about them noticing. There's a thought I keep having about this, which is that the writers must have been aware of what they'd built. You can't invent a dimension that deletes minor characters and then keep drawing minor characters without it crossing your mind. Every new background design after season 3 is, in a small way, a decision about somebody's odds. I don't think that's a theory. I think that's just what happens when a show takes its own premise seriously for long enough. And it's one of the reasons the fandom has stayed as engaged as it has. Most cartoons don't give you anything to worry about between episodes. This one gave everyone a filing system to be anxious about. Anyway, let's step outside the school gates. Theory 59. Elmore is a planet. Bear with me. In the show, the streaming site everyone uses is called Elmore Stream. Not Stream, Elmore Stream. The theory goes, if it's the universe's answer to a global video platform, and it's named after one town, then either the town is the world, or something very odd is going on with the internet there. And the version fans committed to was that Elmore is a city-sized planet. Everything is Elmore. There is nothing else. Theory 60. The counter-argument and the dead URL. The rebuttal came fast. It's probably a local channel on a bigger site, Elmore's section of something like Stream It, the way a regional page works. And then somebody spotted a magazine in the background of a Richard scene with a web address on it, elmoretvplaylist.com, which someone naturally went and typed in, and which does not work. And I find that funnier than I should. A fan going to check whether a fictional Rabbit's television guide had a real website. The compromise position the fandom settled on. Elmore isn't the world, but the rest of the world is keeping its distance, which we'll come back to. Theory 61. What decade is this? The evidence is a proper mess. Telephone boxes, a fuzzy CRT with a VHS tape labelled Wrestling on top. Gumball discovering the internet for the first time like it's a novelty. Plain clothing, a logo that looks like an 8-bit game, and also a functioning streaming service, and mobile phones. Fans built a full case for the 90s and it holds together right up until it doesn't. Then someone on the crew answered the question and gave the best possible response, which was that the show takes place in 1950, 1985, 2010 or 2098. All of them. Any of them. Which lines up perfectly with the earlier point about the timeline having nothing underneath it, and I'd argue is the single most Elmore fact in this entire video. Theory 62. Elmore is in California and was photographed in England. Here's the geography. Elmore is established as being in California. The backgrounds are photographs and live-action plates shot around London, dressed up to look like American suburbia. So the theory people run with is that Elmore feels off because it is off. It's an outsider's California, a French-born, British-based team building an American town out of English streets and reference photos. That slight wrongness in the light, the pavements, the shapes of the houses, is a real thing you're detecting. I think that's why the place is so unsettling to look at, even in a normal episode. You're seeing somewhere real, pretending to be somewhere else, with cartoons standing on it. Theory 63. Larry's employment history is Gumball's fault. Larry works everywhere. Petrol station, supermarket, cinema, restaurant, everything. Fans propose that this isn't ambition or a portfolio career, it's that Gumball and Darwin get him fired from every single job by causing a catastrophe in it, and he simply has to keep finding another one. The show later confirmed it, which means one of Elmore's most familiar background details is a documented record of 2 children ruining a man's life over the course of a decade. Theory 64. The Awesome Store is the only stable thing in town. Businesses in Elmore come and go. Buildings change, staff rotate. The Awesome Store just sits there, run by the same shady man, selling items that shouldn't exist to people who shouldn't have them. The theory, given what we now know about him, is that this isn't a shop at all. It's a position. He's parked in the town's only permanent structure because he needs to be near it. And the reality editing laptop he keeps in the back is the actual business. The bit that gets me is that he sold Rob the universal remote and only afterwards asked what he was planning to do with it. Either the worst risk assessment in retail history, or he already knew and wanted to see how it went. Theory 65. The clown is a ghoul and there's an episode that never happened. There's a clown who turns up in the background across the series, and he's a bit Pennywise, and everyone assumed that was the joke. Then an episode established that he's actually a ghoul. The theory is that he's the town's oldest resident, quietly present at everything, and nobody's ever asked him anything. And the sad footnote, Bockelay has said he wanted to make an episode about the clown's life, about what it's actually like being him. It never got made. So there's a character in that show with a whole existence that was written down somewhere, and then wasn't. Theory 66. Humans exist and it broke everything. For 2 seasons, the fandom had a working theory that humans were extinct in this universe, which explained why everyone is an animal or an object or a shape. Then the sweaters turned up with actual humans in it, and the theory collapsed on the spot. The salvage attempt was that they came in from outside Elmore, which leads directly to the next one. Theory 67. The rest of the world is keeping Elmore at arm's length, put the pieces together. A town with its own internet. A town where humans are notable arrivals rather than residents. A town nobody outside seems to visit, in a state we barely see. The theory is quarantine. Not formally, not with offence, but the world has looked at Elmore, decided it isn't stable, and drawn a line around it, which would explain a lot about why the place is so relentlessly self-contained, and why the town's own weirdness never seems to spread. Theory 68. There's a lab under the mall. There's a secret laboratory hidden in the Elmore Mall water fountain. That's the claim that circulates, and the theory attached is about who's running it and what it's for, the popular tie-in being that it connects to the Bobert experiment. I'll be honest with you, this is the thinnest one on the list. It's mostly circulating on short-form video rather than anywhere I'd call solid. I've kept it in because it's fun, and because a secret lab under a shopping centre is a very Elmore thing to have, but treat it as folklore. Theory 69. Why nobody holds the Wattersons accountable. 3 competing explanations, and this is the question the coma theory was originally trying to answer. 1. They're not real people, so they can't react properly. 2. Elmore has no functioning institutions, no police worth the name, no courts, no administration, so there's simply no mechanism to hold anyone to anything. Plot 3. And this is the one I've come round to. The town needs the Wattersons. If the universe requires plot, and this family reliably generates it, then punishing them would be removing the only thing keeping the place off the deletion list. They're not getting away with it. They're being protected. Theory 70. The angry mob. There's an episode where the town finally has enough. A mob forms and comes for that house, and the episode cuts away before we see what happens. The theory that circulated at the time was as bleak as fan theories get, that the cut was hiding the actual outcome. And it got dismantled fairly quickly, since the family turned up alive in the next season, and the cut was clearly a joke about narrative convenience. But the reason it caught on at all is the interesting part. A meaningful number of viewers watched that mob form and thought, yes, fair enough, which says something about how much damage those kids had done by that point. Something about Elmore I want to raise before we move on, because it took me an embarrassingly long time to notice. There's no countryside. Think about it. You get the school, the mall, the houses, a few shops, some roads, a forest occasionally, a dump, but there's no sense of what's beyond it. Characters don't drive to the next town over. There's no neighbouring city that Elmore has a rivalry with, no regional identity, no sense of being part of something bigger. When people leave, they leave into vagueness, which feeds directly into the quarantine idea and the planet idea, but I think the real explanation is more practical and more interesting. The backgrounds are photographs. Somebody went out and photographed real locations, and photographs have edges. You can only build a world out of the places you actually went and stood. So Elmore's boundaries aren't a creative decision about geography. They're the boundary of a location scout's route. The world ends where the camera stopped. And here's the thing that ties it back to everything else. A world that ends where the photographs end is exactly the kind of world that would develop a mechanism for deleting things it hasn't got room for. The town's limits and the void's function are the same problem viewed from two directions. One more small thing while I'm here about the mall. It's the closest Elmore has to a civic centre. Not a town hall, not a square, not a church, a shopping centre. That's where the big events happen, where people congregate, where the crowds are. The fan reading of that is a bit on the nose for a show about a place made of adverts, but I'll allow it. The characters were drawn to sell things. The town they live in is organised around a retail unit. Somewhere in there is a joke that I don't think anyone made deliberately, and it's better for it. And that leads fairly naturally into the next lot. There's a rule in this town that I don't think has a name, and probably should, because half the theories in this video quietly depend on it. Things become what they're treated as. That's it. That's the mechanism. Penny's shell held her in a shape because everyone, including her, had agreed that was the shape. Rob became a villain because two children told him he was one. Nicole's temper has been described as demonic for so long that it has apparently started behaving demonically. Larry is defined by his jobs because that's all anyone has ever asked of him. And once you've got that in your head, the town's physics stop looking random. Objects come to life in Elmore because people talk to them. A bus stop sign gets addressed as a person and then has to deal with the social consequences of ignoring someone. A fridge becomes an antagonist because a man has been treating it as one for 20 years. It's not magic, it's consensus, which makes the void the enforcement arm of exactly the same rule, running in reverse. If you become what you're treated as, then something nobody treats as anything becomes nothing. Molly wasn't punished, she just never got assigned a meaning, and the town's operating system doesn't have a slot for that. I find this genuinely elegant as a piece of world building, and I don't think it was designed. I think it emerged. You write 100 episodes where the joke is that everything in this town is a bit too alive, and eventually the rules of that joke harden into a system, and then one day a writer looks at the system and realises it implies a disposal process. There's a smaller version of the same idea in the way the show handles reputation. Gumball is treated as a menace, so he behaves like one. Darwin is treated as the good one, so he is. Anais is treated as a baby, so her competence has nowhere to go. The Watterson children are each locked into a role by the expectations of everyone around them, which is, if we're being honest, a fairly accurate description of being 12. The show just took the metaphor and made it load-bearing. One last observation while I'm on this. There's a reason the meta-jokes work in Gumball when they be unbearable in most shows. In a world where things become what they're treated as, a character noticing they're a character isn't a fourth wall break. It's a diagnosis. It's the most dangerous possible thing that could happen to them, because the moment you know your own role, you can decline it. And a town made of agreed upon roles cannot survive somebody opting out, which is precisely why the rule exists that finding out you're fictional ends the world. It's not an arbitrary threat, it's the consensus collapsing, right? Let's talk about how they actually made the thing, because this is the part I've been looking forward to. Shift of gear here. These aren't fan theories so much as things the crew actually did, and I think this is the most rewarding stretch of the whole video if you're still awake. Theory 71. The mismatched styles are a rule, not a gag. Stylized traditional animation, puppetry, CG, stop motion, flash, live action, all of it in the same series, frequently in the same shot. Most shows treat visual consistency as the baseline requirement. Gumball decided the opposite, deliberately, and committed to it for the whole run. The theory, well, the observation, is that this isn't a series of one-off experiments. It's a policy. Nothing in Elmore is required to belong, which, given what the show turned out to be about, is doing a lot of quiet work. Theory 72. The Robinsons are Muppets on purpose. Rocky and his parents, Gaylord and Margaret, are built as Muppet-style puppets. Not animated to look like puppets, designed as them. The theory people run with is that the Robinsons are meant to feel like they've wandered in from a different, older, slightly stiffer kind of children's television, and that Mr. Robinson's permanent misery is partly the misery of a character who knows he's from a cancelled format. Theory 73. Molly is claymation that isn't clay. Molly Collins is designed to look like a stop-motion clay figure, but is often actually rendered in 3D software, because doing real claymation for a background character every week would have destroyed the schedule. So she's an imitation of a technique, a fake handmade thing, and she's the character who gets deleted for being unremarkable. I'm not saying that's intentional, I'm saying it's a hell of a coincidence. Theory 74. Elmore is a photograph. The backgrounds aren't drawn. They're high-definition photographs and live-action plates, and the effect is that these bright, flat characters are standing in a place with real dirt on it. The theory is that this is why the show can go from a fart joke to genuine dread inside 30 seconds. The world underneath is real. It has actual depth of field and actual light, so when the tone drops, there's somewhere for it to drop into. Theory 75. Making a flat cat cast a real shadow. This is the technical bit, and I promise it's more interesting than it sounds. Gumball and Darwin are 2D vector rigs. The world is photographic. To make that work, every shot needs lighting passes, so the characters cast shadows that match the real light in the plate and pick up the ambient colour of the room they're standing in. Then there's the 3D elements, vehicles, props, which get animated at adjusted frame rates so they move in the same rhythm as the 2D characters instead of looking uncannily smooth next to them. Nobody watching notices any of this. That's the entire point of it. Somebody spent a week making sure a cartoon cat's shadow fell correctly on a photograph of a driveway so that you would feel nothing at all. Theory 76. The redesign between seasons 1 and 2. Early Gumball and early Anais have bigger, rounder eyes with smaller pupils and a softer, floppier way of moving. By season 2 they've been tightened up considerably. Completely normal. Many shows do it. Nobody thinks about it. except the revival made it evidence. When Gumball and Darwin start listing the things about their lives that don't add up, the fact that their bodies changed shape between seasons is on the list. A routine production decision from 2012 became a canonical anomaly 13 years later. Theory 77. The pipeline. Storyboards and pre-production were handled across studios in London and Germany under director Mick Graves. Then the material goes out to Boulder Media in Dublin and Studio Soy in Germany for animation, Maya for the CG, a great deal of Photoshop for the backgrounds, Flash and After Effects for the 2D. Start with an outline, punch up the boards, build the animatic, marry the CG and the 2D, then animate. I include this partly because I find production pipelines soothing and partly because it explains the show's texture. That's not one studio's house style. That's 3 countries' worth of people handing work to each other. Theory 78. Much of it actually happened. Bulkeley has said that a lot of the storylines came from real incidents involving him, his family, and the show's staff, which recontextualizes the entire series in a way I find quietly delightful. Somewhere out there is the actual argument that became an episode, the real family holiday, the genuine domestic disaster with a fridge. He grew up in Paris, went into commercials, ended up in London, and put his mum, dad, and sister's names on cartoon rabbits and cats, and then wrote down what happened to them. Theory 79. The pilot is from 2008, 3 years before broadcast. The pilot's dated 2008, and the series premiered in May 2011. The theory people build on that gap is about how much changed in it. Between the pitch and the screen, a sad show about rejects became a family sitcom. The school setting got a family bolted onto the front of it, and a portfolio of advert characters became a cast. 3 years is a long time to spend rebuilding something you already had. Most pitches don't survive that. Theory 80. The music and the handover. Ben Lockett scored the whole original run. Most themes, most cues across 6 seasons of it, but not every piece or the music in the final episode. Then the revival came along years later, and the baton passed to a new composer. And the theory that came out of that is about how much of Elmore's personality was sitting in Lockett's music without anyone crediting it. That to show this visually chaotic needed one consistent voice underneath, and the score was it. There's a nice detail from the revival too. The work print for the finale used one of Lockett's old cues from the original series at a key moment. Somebody reached back for it deliberately. Theory 81. The ceiling and the floor. The series premiere pulled 2.12 million viewers in the US. The show's highest viewed episode is The Goons, at 2.72 million viewers. Its lowest is The Potion, at 0.42 million. That's a big gap, and the theory about what it means is a bit sad. It's not that The Potion is bad, it's that by the time it aired, the audience had scattered across streaming and repeats, and the actual number watching a Cartoon Network broadcast on a given evening had stopped meaning anything. The show's cult following got enormous. Its ratings did the opposite. Both things are true at once, and one of them is why it ended. Theory 82. The boys grew up, and the show didn't. Gumball and Darwin have been voiced by a long line of young actors, because young actors have voices that change, and the character doesn't. For years, this was just a fact of production. Then the revival did the same trick it did with the redesign. Gumball and Darwin notice that their voices have been shifting octaves without explanation, and it goes on the evidence pile. The thing they couldn't control became the thing they used. I think that's a very good instinct. Theory 83. The clown at the wrap party. At the wrap party for the series, one of the editors, Andy Goodman, turned up dressed as the clown. His son made the mask. There's no theory here. I just think it's a lovely image, a crew finishing a decade of work, and one of them comes as the ghoul from the background of the bus scene, wearing something his kid built. Theory 84. The remedial school never left. Last one in this block and it's the one that ties the whole thing together. The original pitch was rejected characters at a school for rejects. The producers said no, so he built Elmore Junior High instead, and filled it with the exact same characters, the ones drawn for adverts that never aired, the ones nobody bought, put in one building together. The theory is that nothing was actually cut. The concept just stopped being stated. It's still a show born from a pile of rejected characters. They simply took the word remedial off the sign and let everyone be cheerful about it. And then, seasons later, the show built a dimension where unwanted characters get deleted and told us the whole thing was always about whether you're interesting enough to keep. It eventually nodded to that original rejected characters concept in a metafictional way. It just took the long way round. 3 more from this area because it's my favourite part of the research, and I found more than I could fit into the numbered list. The first is about what it means that this show came out of a development studio rather than a studio. Cartoon Network's European operation was set up to develop other people's ideas. That was the brief. It was a production house. It was a place where pitches got improved and sent onwards, and the first thing it actually commissioned was made by the bloke whose job was improving other people's pitches. He was the in-house help, and he ended up being the first commission. There's something quite funny about a department designed to serve other creators accidentally producing its own flagship, and then reviving it nearly 15 years later. The second thing is about the 11-minute format, which shaped the show more than people give it credit for. Every episode is 11 minutes. That's it. No two-parters for most of its run, plenty of room for subplots, no space to ease into anything, which means the show had to establish a situation, escalate it into absurdity, and land it, all inside a single sitting. And I'd argue that constraint is where the show's personality came from. You can't do slow character work in 11 minutes, so you do character work through jokes instead. You can't build atmosphere gradually, so you drop tone changes like a brick through a window. The show's famous ability to go from nonsense to genuine unease in a few seconds isn't a stylistic flourish. It's what happens when you've got no runtime and you want both. The third thing is about the sheer volume of it. 6 seasons, and the earlier ones were built as 22-minute episodes made of 2 11-minute halves, which then got split up for American broadcast. From season 4 onwards, they just made the 11-minute pieces directly. That's a lot of production restructuring mid-run, and it happened without the show visibly changing, which tells you the pipeline was solid enough to absorb a format change, and that's not a small thing when you're handing work between London, Dublin and Germany every week. Theory 85. The Don't Hug Me. I'm Scared crossover genuinely happened. Bockley teased a crossover episode and let people guess for months, and the guesses were all other Cartoon Network shows. It was Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, the web series about singing puppets that goes somewhere very unpleasant. The episode is called The Puppets, and they made real felt puppets for it, working with the people behind the original. A children's cartoon on a mainstream network did a crossover with an internet horror short. I still don't fully understand how that got approved, and I'm glad it did. Theory 86. The Chinese clone, and the episode about it. There was a show called Miracle Star. It was, to put it charitably, extremely similar to Gumball. Same family shapes, same setup, different names. So Gumball made an episode about it. The Copycats, in which the Wattersons meet a family of bootleg versions of themselves. The show responded to being plagiarised by putting the plagiarists on screen and letting them be unsettling. The theory people enjoy is that the copycats never left, that somewhere in Elmore there's still a house with a nearly right family in it. The episode doesn't say that. It also doesn't say otherwise. Theory 87. Richard is Chowder's grandson. Right, this is the deep end. The theory, Richard looks like a child of Chowder and Panini from Chowder. Bunny ears, the shape of him, all of it, which would make Gumball and Anais their great-grandchildren. Anais looks a great deal like panini, which the theory leans on hard. Gumball is named after a sweet, and chowder is a world made of food. Several of Gumball's classmates are food. Then later, the theory's original poster came back to say that having now seen Granny Jojo, he was convinced she is panini. I want to be clear that there is no evidence for any of this. I also want to be clear that the character design argument is better than it has any right to be. Theory 88. The stacked timeline. Somebody took the chowder theory and built a chronology on top of it. Foster's home for imaginary friends comes first. Imaginary friends eventually form their own society. Centuries pass and you get chowder. Centuries more and you get Gumball. Meanwhile, in another part of the same world, there's a land called Oo. There are extra branches. Banana Joe's family emigrating from the talking banana country encourage the cowardly dog. 3 small girls fighting crime somewhere around the Foster's era. A pineapple under the sea. It's completely unfounded, and it's the sort of thing I'd happily read for an hour. The instinct underneath, that all these shows share a warehouse and a sensibility, isn't wrong. It's just not literally true. Theory 89. Carrie and High Five Ghost. They're both ghosts on Cartoon Network, so obviously somebody proposed they're related. The rebuttal is specific and quite good. High Five Ghost's entire extended family have small high-fiving hands sticking out of their heads. Carrie doesn't. The counter-rebuttal offered without any evidence whatsoever. It's under the hair. Theory 90. Mr. Small escaped from the problem solvers? The problem solvers had a very distinctive look, and it did not do well. And Mr. Small looks like he belongs in it. The theory, and I love the phrasing people used at the time, is that he read the reviews, recognised a sinking ship, and walked next door. Tobias came up in the same conversation, which is where the earlier debate about his origins came from. Same instinct. These characters look imported because, on some level, they are. Theory 91. Elmore is Springfield. The mapping's easy. Gumball is Bart. Nicole is Marge. Richard is Homer. Darwin is Milhouse. Aeneas is Lisa. The theory doesn't hold, and the reason is straightforward. That's just the standard sitcom family, and The Simpsons didn't invent it either. Bockeley based the Wattersons on his own family, and the shape of a family sitcom is a shape. Worth including because it's the first theory a lot of people arrive at, and working out why it's wrong tells you more about the show than believing it would. Theory 92. The cameo episode. The boredom quietly features characters from Clarence's regular show and Uncle Grandpa. No fanfare, just there in the frame. There's a theory that this was the network's way of establishing a soft shared universe without committing to one, and honestly that's probably just accurate rather than a theory. Theory 93. The shared canon question. Gumball cameos in Uncle Grandpa. He turns up in Crossover Nexus. He's playable in Cartoon Network, Battle Crashers. Which raises the question the fandom's never settled. Do those count? And the answer people generally land on, which I agree with, is that a crossover in a game or a network special is a handshake rather than a canon event. Except, and this is the bit that spoils it, Gumball is a show where the world is explicitly fictional and things get written into and out of existence by a man with a laptop. Under those rules, a promotional crossover is exactly as real as anything else. There's no higher tier of reality for it to fail to reach. Before we get to the ending, I want to go back to the copycats for a minute, because I think it's the most unusual thing this show ever did, and I skated over it. A show got plagiarised. That happens all the time. The normal response is lawyers, or a statement, or nothing. What Gumball did was write an episode in which the Watterson family meet slightly wrong versions of themselves and play it as horror. Not as a joke at the imitator's expense, as something genuinely disquieting. The copies are almost right. They move oddly, They want to be the real ones. And here's the connection I don't see people make. That's the void again, viewed from the other side. The void deletes things for being derivative and unremarkable. The Copycats is about meeting something derivative and unremarkable that is trying very hard to exist anyway. The show made two separate pieces of art about the same anxiety, and I don't think it was consciously doing that either time. It just kept circling the thing it was actually about, which is roughly where all of these theories end up, and I promise I'll stop pointing it out. Now, the ending. Before I let you go, there are 3 from earlier that I've been turning over while writing this and I think deserve a bit more. The first is the hearing the show has always had for its own background characters, which I mentioned around the extras, but didn't really finish. That episode exists because somebody on the writing staff looked at a crowd shot and felt something about it. That's the only explanation. You don't build an entire 11 minutes around minor characters demanding to be noticed unless somebody in the room had been quietly bothered by how many faces they'd drawn and never used. And the show did it years before the void arrived. So the anxiety was there first and the cosmology got built to explain it afterwards. That's the opposite of how these things usually go. Normally you invent the lore and then find stories in it. Gumball had the feeling, then went looking for a mechanism. The second is the shopkeeper, because I've come round on him since I started writing this. I framed him earlier as an archivist running a rescue operation, and I think that's right but incomplete. What he actually does when you look at the whole thing is maintain the status quo. He knows the world is fiction. He has the ability to rewrite it, and what he uses that ability for is to stop anybody else finding out. That's not heroism. That's caretaking of a very specific and slightly grim kind. He's not saving Elmore from the void. He's saving it from knowledge, and the tool he's using is the script itself. And the fact that he retires and hands the shop to Rob at the end means the job continues. Someone's always going to be sitting in that van, editing the world so nobody notices it's editable, which is the least triumphant possible resolution to a 6-year cliffhanger, and I think that's why it works. The third is the thing about Bulkeley's family names, which I raised around Nicole and then moved on from too quickly. He named the mother, the father, and the daughter after his own mother, father and sister. He named the surname after a cartoonist he admires. And then he spent 15 years writing episodes based on things that actually happened to his family and his colleagues. So the show is a portrait. Not a documentary, obviously. Nobody's mum is genuinely melting plastic with her eyes. But the emotional furniture is real. And that's why the family scenes hit harder than they've got any business doing in a programme where a peanut goes to school. The bit I keep landing on is this. A man took the characters nobody wanted, gave them his family's names, put them in a town he built out of photographs of somewhere else, and made them argue about the same things his household argued about. And it ran for 240 episodes and got picked back up years later. That's a strange and slightly beautiful thing to have done with a folder of rejected adverts. Theory 94, 6 years mid-fall, June 2019. The Inquisition. The floor gives way, Rob goes into the void, the screen freezes on him, and the credits start. And that's where it stayed. For 6 years, that was the ending. A boy suspended in a freeze frame over a hole, and a town about to be eaten. The theory that dominated the fandom in that period wasn't really a theory, it was a coping mechanism, a widely held position that the ending simply didn't happen. People decided to not count it, which is a strange sort of collective act, but I understand it. Theory 95, it wasn't his call, Bulkeley said so publicly. He asked people to stop coming after him about it, said landing the last episode that way was not his choice, and added that if the film happened everything would come together properly, which turns the whole cliffhanger into something odd. The show about characters being cut and shelved by forces above them ended on a note the creator didn't want, because of a decision made above him. I'm not going to make more of that than it deserves, but it is sitting right there. Theory 96, Schrödinger's cat. When the film got pulled from its streaming home and shopped elsewhere, someone asked him what was happening to it, and he said it was a bit of a Schrödinger's cat question. Then he followed up. Deep in his heart, he believed the cat would live. A film about a blue cat in an indeterminate state, described by its director using the most famous thought experiment about a cat that's simultaneously alive and dead. That's a very good line, under difficult circumstances. Theory 97. The film's plot was always the answer. Here's the premise as announced. Gumball's biggest fan finds a missing episode of the show, and opening it tears a portal between his world and Elmore. He meets his heroes. They team up. Something is trying to take the town. The theory is that this was never a separate story. That's the void resolution. A fan reaching in from the real world to save fictional people from being deleted is the ending the whole Rob arc was built towards. And it got announced as a film synopsis years before the series got round to it. Theory 98. The title change as an in-universe event. The Amazing World of Gumball came back as The Wonderfully Weird World of Gumball. New voices for the kids, the parents unchanged. The playful theory is that the rename is diegetic. That in a show where cancellation is a cosmic force and the script can be edited from inside, a title change isn't branding, it's a repair. Something got rewritten and the sign on the front changed to match. Absolutely no evidence. Entirely consistent with the rules the show has given us. Theory 99. 2 more seasons means Elmore is safe. Follow the show's own logic. The void consumes the world when the show is cancelled. In December 2025, 2 further seasons were ordered. Therefore Elmore is fine, not metaphorically. By the stated rules of the fiction, that commissioning decision is a stay of execution for an entire town, and everyone in it is alive because a scheduling meeting went well. I love that this is a genuinely valid reading. There is no other show where a renewal announcement is a plot event. Theory 100, the one they all quietly agree on. I've been circling this for 2 hours, so let's just say it. A man with a folder of characters nobody wanted made a show about characters nobody wanted, and got told the sad version wasn't allowed. So he made the cheerful version. And then gradually, over 6 seasons, the sad version came back anyway, through a dimension that deletes the unremarkable, through a boy who became a villain because it was the only job going, through a school full of designs that were originally drawn to sell things and never did. Every theory in this video is a version of the same question. Who gets to keep existing and who decides? The show's answer, as far as I can tell, is that it's mostly arbitrary, and you should be kind to the background characters, which is not a bad thing to leave a generation of children with. I want to spend a bit longer here, because the gap between the original series ending and the revival arriving is its own story, and I think it explains why the resolution landed the way it did. Start with the shape of the weight. The last original episode went out in June 2019. A film was announced in early 2021, greenlit properly later that year, with the creator directing. And then in August 2022, it got pulled from its streaming home and sent off to be shopped elsewhere. Nothing much was heard for nearly 2 years. Then at a festival in 2024, somebody asked him about it directly and got told it wasn't dead, it had just changed. Meanwhile, a 7th season had been announced, then confirmed as in full production, then retitled, then released in mid-2025. So the actual sequence is a cliffhanger, a film to resolve it, the film falling into limbo, a series arriving instead, and the series doing the job the film was supposed to do. The resolution came through the back door, years late, from a project that started life as a completely different thing. And here's what I think that did to it. If the film had come out in 2022 as planned, the void resolution would have been a spectacle, a big theatrical thing with a fan from the real world tearing a portal open. Instead, it arrived as an 11-minute episode about two boys noticing their bedroom window is on the wrong side of the house. I think that's better. Considerably better, actually. The scale of it is domestic, the stakes are cosmic, and the setting is a hallway, which is exactly the register this show has always been strongest in. The other thing worth sitting with is what the revival chose to make evidence. They could have picked anything, any invented mystical clue. What they actually used was a list of production compromises, bodies that changed shape between seasons, voices that dropped because the actors were children and children grow, birthdays that never happened because cartoon time doesn't move, a window that's on the wrong side because somebody drew the exterior before the interior was locked. Every single item on that list is a real thing that really happened to this show, for boring practical reasons, and the revival turned all of it into proof that the world is fiction. I don't think I've seen a series do that before. Most shows spend enormous effort hiding their seams. This one gathered them up, handed them to the characters, and said, "Here, this is what's wrong with you." There's a version of that which would be smug. It isn't smug, and the reason is that the characters are frightened by it. Gumball and Darwin aren't winking at us. They're two kids working out that their lives have inconsistencies in them and getting increasingly unsettled, while a man in a van frantically rewrites the script to stop them getting to the answer. And the man in the van is losing. He keeps writing clumsy fixes that make things worse, writing and stuff, and having the words physically appear in the town. That sort of thing. It's played for laughs, and it's also a portrait of somebody desperately patching a story that's coming apart, which is a thing that happens in real writers' rooms every day of the week. There's a small detail in that episode I keep thinking about. At one point, Rob decides that since Gumball and Darwin are convinced all this is his evil scheme anyway, the tidiest way to end the episode is to write himself as the villain and be defeated. So he does. He volunteers, he writes his own defeat into the script, because it's the option that closes the story cleanly and protects everybody. Which is, when you follow it back, the exact same decision he made in The Nobody when he agreed to be the arch-enemy in the first place. He's still taking the job nobody wants because somebody has to, and it still costs him everything, and he still does it without being thanked. The show gave that character one consistent trait across nearly a decade and about 4 different voice actors, and it's that he keeps accepting the role. Last thing on this. The 2 additional seasons ordered at the end of 2025 mean there's more coming, which means the Void business isn't finished, which means everything in this video has a shelf life. I've made my peace with that. Half of what I've said tonight will be either confirmed or comprehensively demolished by some 11-minute episode about a burger. That's the deal with this show, and it's why people have stayed with it. There were a load more I couldn't fit. There's a whole argument about what Duke actually is. There's the Rocky and the school bus timeline. There's an entire subgenre of theories about the Robinsons that I couldn't verify well enough to include. And the honest situation is that this list is going to need doing again. The Void storyline is still running. There are more episodes coming, and every one of them turns something a fan noticed in 2014 into either a plot point or a joke at their expense, which is a nice position for a show to be in, really. 240 episodes of the original, plus whatever comes next, and the fandom still finding things. Anyway, if you're still here, I hope some of that was new. If you drifted off around the school section, that's completely fine. It's what this is for. A last handful of things, and then I'll let you go properly. I said at the start that some of these theories were people arguing on forums in 2013, and that's true, and I think it's worth saying why that matters. A lot of what's in this video came from fan wikis and tropes pages and blog posts written by people with no expectation that anyone important would ever read them. Some of those entries have been sitting there for over a decade, occasionally edited, occasionally argued over in the comments. And a few of them turned out to be right, not in a spooky way, in the ordinary way, where somebody watches carefully and notices something real and writes it down. The people who spotted that the kids never had birthdays weren't predicting anything. They were just paying attention, and then a script came along years later and put that observation in a character's mouth. I find that a genuinely nice thing about this particular fandom. It isn't especially loud, it's mostly people cataloguing details, which is exactly the kind of activity that suits a show built out of details. The other thing I'll say is that this was more fun to research than I expected. I came in thinking I'd be doing 100 variations on what if it's all a dream, and instead I got a production pipeline across 3 countries, a rejected pitch about a remedial school, an argument about whether a fish's legs are Lamarckian, and a bloke who described his own film as a Schrodinger's cat question. So thank you for that, whoever put those wiki pages together. You made my week considerably easier. Sleep well.